Hey there, English students. I wanted to spend just a short period walking through some of the techniques that you'll be using to do academic research. So remember, we said that academic research is looking at sources that are written by experts for other experts, which means you're not going to find academic sources in just general population kind of documents. Those are typically written for a general audience, so that's what makes them not considered academic or scholarly. Doesn't mean they're wrong, it just means they're not academic. So let me show you a few things that you have access to here. So you'll see I'm logged in to my SEC. And over on the left-hand side are some links. If you don't see these links, it might be because you have the little menu button selected. If you only see that, so just click the little menu guy and you can see the whole thing. And I'm going to select library. This is where research begins. There are all kinds of different tabs here that are incredibly useful. I encourage you to click around. Again, you're not going to hurt anything by clicking around here or in Moodle. So this first box that comes up, one search, says search for full text articles from scholarly journals, reference materials, magazines, and media collections. So magazines, not scholarly, reference materials like encyclopedias, not scholarly because it's written for a general audience, but it does give me access to scholarly journals. So let's say I'm doing research on Shakespeare's Othello. So I get some search results automatically. There are 16,000 of them. And notice it's sorted by relevance. I tend to keep that just because that means the ones that match most closely my search will be listed first. But before I do anything, I want to go over here to these filters and I want to click full text. This is so that when I click on a source, I can actually see the full text of the article, not just a summary. And then I also want to select scholarly journals. This is the basic scholarly search. Now I could take it up a notch and then search peer-reviewed journals. Peer-reviewed journals are scholarly, but not every scholarly journal is peer-reviewed. Peer review is another step in making publication of an article or of research more difficult. So if I were to write a research piece and then I send it to a peer-reviewed journal, they don't just automatically publish it. Instead, they send copies of it out to my peers, which are other people in my field. They read it and then they give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And if it doesn't get their vote, it doesn't get published. So peer review adds another layer of scholarliness. You don't necessarily need it, but let's look at how it changes this search. So there are 4,680 results now that I've narrowed it to just the scholarly ones. Let's click peer review, see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. All right, it only removed 3. So that's fine. So now I know that what I'm left with in these search results are scholarly articles. So then when I begin looking at them, sometimes there's like a little preview here. Sometimes I can click preview and see a whole paragraph, which is called an abstract, that looks at the kind of a summary of that article. This is a good thing to do when I'm researching because I don't want to waste my time reading an article that's not going to be helpful. So if I look at this preview paragraph and go, ooh, yeah, that makes sense. So for example, this is looking at the character Iago and kind of a psychoanalytic approach to him, which is a fantastic way to talk about this character, by the way, because he is a psychopath. So I could do a couple things. Let's click full text online. And this takes me to the article itself. If I have the option, which I almost always do, I want to use the PDF version This is because the PDF is exactly how this source looks in the actual journal. So if I were physically holding the journal in my hand, it would look like this. And the importance of that is page numbers. Notice this gives me page numbers. This is 265, 266. You need those whenever you're doing MLA citations in your research because you give author, last name, and page number in your citations. So if I were to quote from or refer to any idea on this page, I would make sure that my citation includes this page number along with the author's last name. Another good thing about PDFs, you can save them. So if I love this article, I'm going to go ahead and download it and save it to a folder on my desktop or in my computer so I never have to come back and look for it again. In fact, I have lots of these. I'll show you really quickly. This is my school computer. So for example, for British literature, these are all the different things we end up reading in British literature. And I have various pieces of research saved in these folders. And then I also have just a general research articles folder. So for example, when we read Wilfred Owen, who is a World War I poet, I've got articles about him. I have articles about Wordsworth and Mary Wollstonecraft. So these help me in not only teaching those pieces of literature, but also helping students write about those pieces of literature. The other thing I want to point out is this is in the ProQuest database, right? That's important. You need to know that. Most databases will have a button that says Cite. If I click onto that button, it shows me how this source would be listed in an APA paper. I do not want APA for this class, so I'm going to select a different one. Notice all the different research styles. They're all basically the same thing. They just put stuff in different order. We are using the most recent MLA, so the 8th edition. So I'll click it. It changes it. This is what I can then copy, paste into my works cited page. Couple of things about that. So let me copy it. Let me open up a Word document. When I paste it into my Word document, so let's say, my Word document, this is my works cited page, which is at the end of an essay. When I paste it, at this point, it kept the hanging indent format, which is really good. Sometimes it won't, depending on the database that you're in. So you'll want to make sure you go back and fix this to be hanging indent. And I want to make sure that this font matches the font of the rest of my essay. So if I've written the rest of my essay in Times New Roman 12, I just want to make sure I change that. And then I want to go through my handbook and make sure this is all correct. Sometimes there are errors. Sometimes they will, the cite button will make this article title in all caps, and that's not correct. Sometimes it won't put the journal title in italics, which it needs to be. So this is where using that MLA section of the handbook that I mentioned in the video, the intro video for this module, that's where this becomes important. If you're in a face-to-face class with me, we've walked through that handbook in class. So moving from one article to another, so say I close this and I go back to my search results. If nothing's really coming up for me, I need to make sure that I'm playing around with my search results. This is something that you'll be doing in a discussion board. So perhaps I do the words Othello and racism. This means that the software is going to search for articles that have both of those words. If the article does not have both, it doesn't get on the list. So that narrowed my research to 791 results. That's fantastic. Now, if I wanted it to include the entire name, William Shakespeare, if I put quotation marks around it, that means that it is going to search for articles that has those exact words in that exact order. side by side, just like that. So this is going to be a lot. Yeah, so 11,000 results. So play with your search terms. Play with the way that you use or don't use the cite button in the databases. And remember always to use these filters so that you can be sure that what you're finding are these scholarly articles that are published in these professional journals. That means they are written by experts for other experts. All right, happy researching.